Thanksgiving week at Denver Liberty International always feels like somebody shoved the entire country into one building and shook it hard. It's loud, messy, chaotic, like a storm made out of humans. Kids crying, dads yelling, TSA barking orders, luggage wheels squeaking like they're begging for mercy. You get the picture. And in the middle of all that madness, Officer Caleb Hunter was doing what he always did, walking his K-9 partner, Ranger, through the security zone like it was just another normal holiday shift. Only, this day wasn't normal, not even close. Ranger, big German shepherd, golden brown coat, eyes sharp enough to slice through steel, wasn't the kind of dog who spooked easily. He never jumped at noises, never tugged on the leash, never reacted unless something truly mattered. The kind of dog that makes you think, yeah, okay, if something goes down, I want that guy on my team. But then it happened. Right there, in the middle of Concourse B. Without warning. Ranger froze, not slowed, not hesitated. Froze. Caleb felt the leash jerk tight in his hand. Ranger, hey, bud, what's up? But Ranger wasn't listening, not even close. His head lifted, eyes locked on something across the checkpoint, like he was hearing a whisper no human could catch. Then, everything exploded into motion. Ranger lunged forward so hard, the leash tore right through Caleb's fingers. Ranger, wait! Too late. The dog shot across the floor like a missile with fur, weaving through a maze of people who didn't even realize danger was sprinting past their legs. A woman screamed, a coffee cup went flying. A suitcase flipped over. Caleb shoved through the crowd, heart hammering so hard it shook his ribs. Move! Move! Police K-9! Ranger reached the luggage belt, launched himself onto the conveyor, and landed right on top of a dark teal suitcase. Medium-sized, scuffed edges, nothing fancy. The kind of suitcase you wouldn't look at twice. But Ranger saw something nobody else saw. He snarled, low, deep, primal, then slammed his paws against the suitcase like he was pinning a monster inside. People backed away instantly. Holy crap, what's wrong with that dog? Is that a bomb? Somebody do something. The suitcase twitched. Not a soft shift. Not a bump from the belt. It thumped. Hard. A wave of fear surged across the checkpoint. TSA stumbled backward, knocking over a sign with a crash. Did that thing just move? Ranger barked. One sharp, violent sound, and the suitcase thumped again. Harder. A TSA officer slammed the emergency button. Red lights burst overhead. Sirens wailed. Emergency lockdown! All passengers evacuate immediately! This is not a drill! Panic erupted instantly. Parents grabbing kids, adults shoving past each other, bags dropping, a man crawling on his knees because he couldn't stand fast enough. Caleb stayed where he was, beside Ranger, staring at a suitcase shaking like something trapped inside was fighting for its life, or trying to get out. Ranger, buddy. Caleb whispered, voice cracking. What the hell did you find? Ranger didn't growl, he whined. A soft, heartbroken sound. The suitcase trembled again. Then, barely audible, something inside let out a tiny, fragile sound. A whimper. A cry. A sound so small it shouldn't have been heard over the alarms, but somehow it cut straight through everything, like it sliced the world open. Caleb felt his heartbeat stop. Ranger barked, sharp, urgent, desperate, and for one impossible second, the entire airport went silent. The thing about fear, real fear, is that it doesn't walk in quietly. It hits fast, hits hard, like an earthquake ripping through concrete. And that's exactly what it felt like when the alarms at Denver Liberty International started screaming. Red lights flashed across the ceiling, quick, sharp bursts, like the whole place was blinking in terror. And those sirens? God, they didn't sound like normal sirens. They sounded like someone yelling straight into your skull. Caleb barely had time to steady himself on the conveyor belt before the bomb squad came pouring in from every direction. Gear clanking, boots pounding, radios barking commands over each other. It was chaos stacked on top of chaos. Move! Move! Clear the zone! Everybody back now! Emergency shutters slammed over the exits. Metal doors rattled down, sealing entire sections of the concourse. People freaked out instantly, like you could see panic explode in their eyes. Ranger didn't move. He stayed planted on that teal suitcase like he was guarding a doorway straight to hell. Shoulders stiff, head low, teeth showing. Just enough to warn anyone stupid enough to try dragging him away. Caleb reached for him again. Ranger, buddy, talk to me, okay? What are you... Thump. The suitcase slammed against the metal belt so hard the floor vibrated. A woman in a red coat screamed. A businessman lost a shoe and didn't even stop to grab it. Phones, backpacks, Thanksgiving pies. People ditched everything as they bolted for the doors. Is it a bomb? Nope, I'm out. It didn't look like a crowd anymore. It looked like a stampede. Harlow, the bomb squad team lead, skidded to a stop near Caleb, visor half up, eyes wide. Hunter, get your dog off the device. Caleb shook his head so fast it looked painful. He won't back down, I can't, he's locked in. Then pull him. I said I can't. Ranger wasn't just ignoring commands. He was welded to that suitcase. Like walking away meant something terrible would happen. The conveyor jolted, like the machine itself was scared. Suitcases toppled off the sides. One burst open, clothes spraying everywhere like confetti from the world's worst holiday parade. A duffel bag rolled under Caleb's feet. He stumbled, caught himself against the belt. God, this is bad. This is so bad, Ranger growled, low, warning, like thunder rolling under the floor. Harlow barked orders. All units, get the containment shield up. Move! Two techs rushed forward with the ballistic barrier, but before they could set it down, thump, 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 the suitcase struck the belt again, faster, harder, like something inside was fighting. One tech stumbled back. Dude, no bomb hits like that. What even is? Don't speculate, Harlow snapped. Even he sounded rattled. Caleb's heartbeat pounded so loud, he swore people could hear it. "Ranger, hey, look at me! Look at me!" Ranger didn't. His ears pinned back, tail stiff. The posture Caleb had only seen twice. A hostage scene, and an injured child under rubble. The life or death stance. "Everybody get down!" People dropped instantly. Others dove behind pillars. One guy literally hid behind a trash can like it was bulletproof. And then, click. A tiny metallic sound sliced through the sirens. The lock on the suitcase twitched. Just the latch. Just a stupid little piece of metal moving a quarter inch. But somehow, it felt like the entire room exhaled in horror. Harlow whispered, "Oh no." Caleb felt ice crawl up his spine. Did that just... Click. The suitcase was unlocking itself. Ranger barked, explosive, desperate, like he was shouting, "Back up, now! Get the shield up!" Harlow shouted, but the techs hesitated. Just 1 second, long enough to make the air feel like breaking glass. The suitcase wasn't just moving anymore. It was throbbing. A heavy thump, thump, thump echoed through the belt. Someone whispered, "Dear God, something's alive in there." The latch jumped open, then slammed shut as if yanked from inside. Caleb's stomach dropped. "Ranger, back, please." But Ranger did the opposite. He stepped onto the suitcase, not to restrain it, not to dominate it, but to protect it. Shielding it with his whole body, like whatever was inside wasn't a threat, but something that desperately needed him. And then, right at the peak of all that unbearable, skin-crawling fear, a sound came from inside. Not a bang, not a hiss. A tiny, cracking, heartbreaking whimper. So soft, so fragile, so impossibly out of place. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't a bomb. It was a cry. And the entire airport, every terrified soul within earshot, went silent. Even the alarms seemed to quiet down. Caleb's voice cracked. "Oh, God, Ranger, what did you find?" And Ranger, he lowered his head and whimpered back. And the crazy thing is, that tiny whimper from inside the suitcase? Yeah, that was the sound that pushed everyone right over the edge. Because right after it echoed through the chaos, like a thread of pain floating in a storm, everybody just froze again. Like the world forgot how to move for the second time that day. Harlow, the bomb squad lead, lifted a hand that was shaking way more than he would ever admit. Okay. Nobody breathe on the damn thing. We're opening it. Slowly." Caleb swallowed so hard it hurt. "Ranger, buddy, come here. Come on." But Ranger didn't budge. The big shepherd stayed planted on top of that suitcase like he was glued to it, like leaving wasn't even an option. 2 techs in full bomb suits stepped forward. Their gear clanked with every move. You could hear each breath inside their helmets. Short, tight, nervous breaths that made the whole moment feel like it was balancing on a knife edge. The tech on the right slipped a tool under the latch. "Ready?" he whispered. The other whispered back, I don't think we're ever ready for whatever this is. A tiny metallic tick echoed as the first lock released. People behind the barricades flinched like they'd just watched a gun go off. Caleb leaned in, barely breathing. Ranger's ears flattened, his whole body trembling. Not in fear, but something almost protective, desperate. Another tick. The second latch gave way. The suitcase shifted under Ranger's paws, and he let out a sharp bark like he was warning the whole room to watch themselves. Harlow's voice cracked through the tension. On 3. 1, 2. He never made it to 3, because the suitcase jerked again. One last violent twitch, and the lid popped open just a sliver, like something inside pushed it with whatever strength it had left. Harlow reacted fast, grabbing the edge and lifting it all the way. And then everything just stopped, died, collapsed into silence. Inside the suitcase, curled up on a filthy towel, was a baby corgi. Tiny, fragile, barely bigger than a pair of winter mittens. His fur, God. His fur wasn't even the right color anymore. It was coated in chalky gray chemical dust that clung to him like ash. His breathing was so thin, it looked breakable. Caleb felt something punch him in the chest. Oh, Jesus, someone whispered. Another person gagged. A TSA agent turned away and cried. Harlow's voice softened, something breaking in it. Kid. He's just a kid. The little corgi, Butterscotch, according to the ID tag tied around his neck, shivered once. Barely, like he was trying to stay alive out of sheer stubbornness. Ranger stepped off the suitcase and lowered his head toward the tiny dog. He made this sound, a low, heart-wrenching whine from the deepest part of him. One of the bomb techs choked out, Guys, look at this. He lifted Butterscotch carefully, supporting the tiny body with both hands. The pup didn't fight, didn't open his eyes, just hung there. The tech pushed the fur aside near the belly, and that's when they saw it. A small incision, clean, deliberate. A straight line of shaved skin with sutures that didn't belong on a puppy this young. Caleb felt the world tilt. What the hell is that? Harlow squinted through his visor. Those aren't from an accident. That's surgical. The tech moved his thumb, gently. And there it was. Something solid under the skin. A foreign object. A cold wave spread through the room. Please tell me that's not what I think it is, someone whispered. Harlow shook his head, jaw clenching. It is. They implanted a device. Caleb blinked fast. You're saying this puppy was, what? A courier? Harlow exhaled hard. Not just a courier, a biodata carrier. Someone used this baby to smuggle biological data. Someone cursed. A woman sobbed. A man muttered, monsters, absolute monsters. Ranger pressed his nose to Butterscotch's cheek. The puppy made a tiny sound, a secret-sized cry. Caleb's voice broke. "Who the hell does that to something so small?" "No one human," Harlow said. Another tech whispered. They weren't just smuggling data. They didn't even expect him to make it. And that's when the anger hit. Not loud, not explosive, cold, sharp, like a blade pressed against your chest. Everyone felt it. Caleb, the TSA agents, the bomb techs who'd seen more nightmares than anyone should. Ranger growled. Long, low, furious, taking the weight of the whole moment on his shoulders. Butterscotch whimpered again, and every heart in that room cracked. Caleb whispered, "We're gonna find who did this. I swear to God." Ranger nudged his hand as if saying, "Yeah, we will." And now I'm honestly curious. If you were standing there seeing that tiny puppy lying in that suitcase, what would have hit you first? Anger, heartbreak, or something else entirely? And the thing is, while everyone was still trying to process what they were looking at, this tiny, fading puppy pulled out of a suitcase like some awful secret. Another sound cut through the silence. Not a whimper, not a siren. A voice. Small, high, cracking. "Mom! Mom, I need to see. Let me through, please." Before anyone could react, an 8-year-old girl burst through the barricade like panic itself had pushed her forward. Mila Rhodes. Skinny arms. Messy brown hair under a knit beanie. Sneakers with little stars that lit up as she ran. Her mother, Lauren, raced behind her, whispering, "Honey, no, don't get close. Please don't." But Mila slipped free like she'd been training for this moment her whole life. She stumbled to a stop in front of the medical table where Butterscotch lay half alive. And she just froze. Completely. Like her whole soul slammed into a wall she never saw coming. Her eyes locked onto the puppy. Her lips trembled. Her breath hitched in a tiny, sharp gasp, a sound far too grown up for a kid her age. "But that looks like Stormy." Her voice didn't sound like a voice, more like a memory bleeding into the air. Caleb turned, confused for a moment. "Stormy? Who?" And then Lauren whispered, barely audible, "Stormy was her dog. He died in the accident last month. A hit and run. Late evening. Stormy didn't make it." The room went still, like the knowledge itself punched the air out of everyone. Mila took one step forward, then another. Then her knees buckled. She didn't fall hard, more like she folded into the floor, hands pressed against the tile, breath shaking, eyes glued to the dying corgi like she was staring at a ghost wearing Stormy's face. And then she broke. Completely. The first sob hit the room like a wrecking ball. Not loud. Not dramatic. Small. Cracked. Full of a hurt no child should ever carry. Why does he look like Stormy? Why is he hurt? Why would someone hurt him? Lauren dropped to her knees behind her, wrapping her arms around her daughter, whispering, Baby, don't look, please. Just come here. But Mila didn't move. She couldn't. Not with Butterscotch lying there looking like the second coming of a dog she'd lost. Caleb felt his throat close. He'd handled bomb threats, arrests, shootings. But this? A child crushed under grief she shouldn't even know? This hit harder than anything he was trained for. And then Ranger moved. Slow, gentle, like he understood every shard of Mila's heart. He stepped forward, lowered himself beside her, and rested his massive head against her trembling shoulder. The whole room inhaled at once. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't trained. It wasn't instinct for danger. It was comfort. Raw, honest, human. Mila broke even further. She buried her hands into Ranger's fur and cried. Silent at first, then messy, shaking sobs. I don't want him to die. Not again. Not again. Ranger nudged her cheek. Soft, slow, like he was saying, I'm here. I hear you. I won't let this one go. Harlow removed his helmet. A TSA agent wiped his eyes. A bomb tech turned away, glove pressed to his mouth. Even the passengers still in the concourse stood frozen, watching a little girl's heart crumble on the floor. Caleb stepped closer, kneeling beside them. Hey, kiddo. Look at me. She didn't. Her eyes were locked on Butterscotch. Caleb softened his voice. I'm all 100. No one here is giving up on him. Not me. Not the medics. Not Ranger. And definitely not you. Mila sniffled, wiping her face with her sleeve. But what if I lose him too? Caleb swallowed. Then we fight harder. Together. Ranger barked once, quiet, steady, as if saying, yeah, count me in. Butterscotch twitched, the tiniest paw movement, and Mila gasped. He moved! Mom! He moved! Lauren hugged her tighter. Yes, honey. He's still trying. A medic rushed in, murmuring about weak but responsive, but no one absorbed the words. All they saw was the smallest spark of life, and somehow that spark pulled the entire room together like a shared heartbeat. Caleb looked around. Bomb techs, TSA officers, terrified travelers, all holding their breath for the same tiny life. Ranger stayed pressed against Mila, choosing her as fiercely as he'd chosen that puppy. And somehow the moment felt less like tragedy and more like the beginning of something none of them understood yet. And honestly, after watching Mila break down like that, the room probably should have softened. You know, more sympathy, more gentleness, more, okay, let's take a breath. But nope. Life didn't give them that kind of break. Because while Mila clung to Ranger like he was the only solid thing left in her world, Agent Troy Keller stepped forward and said the one sentence that flipped the whole damn room upside down. Everybody, don't touch the suitcase yet. There's more in here. The energy snapped again. Not fear this time. Something sharper. Caleb looked up. More? What do you mean more? Keller didn't answer right away. He dug his gloved fingers into the lining of the suitcase, peeling it back slowly, with this disgusted hesitation, like he already hated whatever he was about to fund. Then he froze. "Oh, hell no." Harlow leaned in. "What? What is it?" Keller lifted the fabric completely, and the whole room inhaled at the same time. Under the false bottom, hidden so well the scanners missed it, was a pocket stuffed with gear that looked like it belonged in an underground lab. A silver micro-injector pen, 2 faintly glowing gel tubes, a transparent chip the size of a fingernail, a tiny transmitter wired into the suitcase wall, blinking like a heartbeat. Lauren whispered, "What? What is all that?" Keller didn't sugarcoat it. "Biotech trafficking. Someone used this puppy as a living transport unit." Mila's sobs stopped instantly. Her head snapped up. A living what?" Keller swallowed, jaw tight. "Honey, someone put something inside him. Something they wanted to hide." Mila's face twisted. Not scared, not confused. Hurt. They hurt him? On purpose?" Caleb stepped in gently. "Mila, sweetheart, maybe you shouldn't." She whipped around, voice cracking like a blade splitting through wood. "Why would they do that to a baby?" Her scream wasn't anger at first. It was heartbreak, sharpened into something dangerous. Even the bomb squad jolted. Ranger's head snapped up, his ears stiff. And then he growled. Not a warning, not fear. A promise. The kind that says, "Let me at whoever did this." Keller didn't hide the fury building under his skin. This isn't amateur stuff. Someone implanted a data chip under the puppy's skin and planned to retrieve it on arrival. Caleb clenched his fists tight. Veins raised along his arms. They carved into him. "Yeah," Keller said quietly. "They did. And left him in chemicals. And sealed him in a suitcase. And didn't care if he couldn't finish. Because they all knew. Butterscotch wasn't meant to survive. He was disposable." Mila stepped closer, trembling, tears streaking her cheeks. "They used him like trash. Like he wasn't alive." "No, Mila," Caleb said, voice cracking with rage. "They used him like a tool, a container." "A container," she whispered, horrified. "He's a baby." Ranger nudged her hand gently, like saying, "I know, kid. I know." But Mila wasn't done. She pointed at the false bottom compartment. "This is evil," she said. "Real evil." Keller nodded. "Yeah, it is." One tech exhaled sharply. "I've seen messed up stuff, but this? A puppy? For biodata?" Another muttered, "Lock me in a room with whoever did this. 5 minutes. That's all I need." Caleb's voice sliced the air. "We're gonna find them. All of them." Ranger stepped closer to the suitcase, planting a paw on the metal edge, snarling softly at the hidden devices. Not anger. A declaration. Keller began bagging the items. This isn't small time. You don't implant a device like this unless you're part of something bigger. Caleb's jaw flexed. So this wasn't just cruelty. This was business. The worst kind, Keller said, sealing the evidence bag. Mila pressed her hands to her face as another sob cracked out of her. Lauren wrapped her tight, whispering, "Baby, so." But Mila shook her head, wiping her tears, looking at Ranger. "We can stop them, right? We have to, for Butterscotch." Caleb knelt beside her, met her at eye level. "Yes," he said. "A promise. We will." Ranger lowered his head onto Mila's shoulder, letting her hug him again. Keller stepped forward, arms crossed. "We're tracking whoever brought this suitcase through, and when we find them," he glanced at Butterscotch, "they won't be walking away." Ranger growled in agreement. Caleb stood tall, fists clenched like iron. "We're ending this," he said, "no matter what it takes." And honestly, after all that anger boiling in the room, after Mila's scream, Ranger's growl, Keller's whole "this is organized crime" thing, you'd think the place couldn't handle one more emotional hit. But, yeah, it absolutely did. Because right when the vets rushed Butterscotch to the airport's K-9 medical wing, something shifted. Not fear, not chaos. Something else. Something like pride rising through the cracks. Chief Dana Mercer, who never ran, never rushed, never let emotions touch her, stormed into the concourse like a hurricane in a navy blue uniform. Sharp jaw, sharp voice, sharp reputation. 20 years in the job, and people still straightened up when she walked past. She looked around at the wrecked security zone. Suitcases everywhere. Coffee spilled, clothes scattered, signs knocked over. Then she looked at Ranger beside Caleb, and for a second, her tough expression cracked. "Is it true?" she asked quietly. Caleb nodded. "Yeah. He found the kid, and the device, and all of it." Mercer stepped closer to Ranger, not with authority, not with command, with respect. She knelt slowly, joints creaking, hand hovering above his scruff. Then she whispered, soft enough to bruise the air, "Good boy. You saved a life today." Ranger leaned forward, pressing his forehead gently against her chest. And Mercer, Chief Mercer, the woman who once fired a guy for crying during roll call, actually choked up. "Oh, for Dana, really?" Harlow muttered, wiping his visor. But Mercer didn't look away from Ranger. Then she did something nobody saw coming. She went down on one knee. Right there, between a trash can and a baggage scanner. A 20-year veteran who never bowed to politics, pressure, or panic, kneeling for a dog. People gasped. Someone started clapping. Then another. And then the entire concourse, like one big exhale, erupted. Applause cracked through the air like thunder. People cheering behind barricades. TSA agents crying in towers. A guy holding a pretzel. Even a tourist who had no idea what was going on but clapped anyway. Mila, wiping her face beside Lauren, whispered, "See, Mom, I told you he was a hero." Mercer nodded. You're right, sweetheart. Then she stood and raised her voice. Ladies and gentlemen, listen up. The airport fell into a soft quiet, like everyone wanted to hear her. This dog, Mercer said, pointing at Ranger, acted faster, smarter, and braver than any scanner we've got. He saved a life, and he exposed a threat none of us saw coming. Ranger tilted his head like, yeah, I did. What about it? Mercer continued. So as of right now, Ranger is officially recognized as the primary life detection responder in this entire facility. Applause exploded again. And from this moment forward, she added, he is under full commendation review for exemplary service. Caleb blinked. Wait, seriously? Mercer shot him a look. Hunter, if I could give him a medal right now, I'd staple it to your vest. Someone yelled, Give the dog a raise! Another, Give him a steak! Mila cupped her hands and shouted, Ranger is my hero! The crowd melted. A woman near Gate 12 sobbed into her travel pillow. Keller stepped beside Mercer, holding up his phone. Chief, you might want to see this. Mercer frowned. What now? Keller showed her the screen, a photo already posted, and shared, and reshared. Ranger standing on the suitcase, eyes blazing, Caleb behind him, Mila crying. Butterscotch in a tech's arms. Caption, Thanksgiving miracle at Denver Liberty Airport. Likes exploding, comments flooding, hashtag trending. Mercer squinted. That's fast. Keller nodded. Chief, this dog's going viral. Caleb groaned. Oh, great. He's never gonna fit through a doorway again. Ranger huffed. Like, try me. Voices erupted. I'm sending this to Fox News. It's going on TikTok right now. America needs this today. And they weren't wrong. News alerts buzzed across the concourse. K9 saves puppy in airport bio-smuggling operation. Uncovered hero dog stops. Thanksgiving tragedy, then the headline that spread the fastest. Ranger, the Thanksgiving miracle dog. Caleb stared at the screen, then at Ranger, who wagged proudly, chest puffed like he'd earned the universe. Dude, Caleb whispered, you're famous. Ranger barked once, like, finally. Mila rushed over, hugging Ranger's neck tight. You deserve everything, she whispered. Everything. And somehow the world felt lighter. Even with danger still out there. Even with Butterscotch fighting for his life. Even with a crime ring still loose. Something warm filled the gap. Hope, pride, gratitude, all carried by one dog. And honestly, with the whole airport buzzing like it had just witnessed some miracle on live TV, the last thing anyone expected was for the day to take a darker turn. But that's exactly how life works, right? It waits until you breathe, just once, and then it hits you again, twice as hard. Because while the crowd was still cheering Ranger's name, Agent Keller's radio crackled with static. Then a voice shot through. Keller, we found her. Suspect Voss is inside the building. She's moving fast. Everything froze. Keller stiffened. Where? More static. Then, South Corridor, heading toward Level C underground. Level C, the deepest parking deck, half-lit, echoey as hell, basically the worst place for a desperate criminal to run. Keller didn't hesitate. "Hunter! With me!" Caleb grabbed Ranger's harness. "Ranger, track!" And just like that, the hero dog went from America's sweetheart to a four-legged missile. He launched forward, claws scraping across the tile, leaving behind the crowd, the cameras, the applause, everything. He wasn't running for glory. He was running for butterscotch, for Mila, for justice. Caleb sprinted behind him, yelling, "Move! Move! Police K9!" They tore through a maintenance door, down oil-scented concrete stairs, bursting into Level C. The temperature dropped instantly, like stepping into a steel freezer. Footsteps echoed sharp and lonely through the pillars. And ahead, quick footsteps slapped the cement. Ranger heard her first. His ears shot up. He bolted left. Caleb shouted, "Ranger, wait!" Too late. The chase was on. Time 700 months. Caleb rounded a pillar and saw her. Elara Voss. Mid-20s. Black hoodie. Long braid. Running like a frantic shadow. She looked back. Saw Ranger. Panic detonated in her eyes. Oh no, 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 no. She weaved between cars. Ranger didn't care. Sliding under a truck bumper, leaping over a barrier, claws sparking. "Elara, federal agent!" Keller shouted. "Stop!" She ran faster. In her right hand, Caleb saw it. A black device. Blue lights blinking. The data purge trigger, if she pressed it. Everything inside Butterscotch's body would be wiped. Evidence gone. Case gone. Justice erased. Caleb's heart slammed his ribs. "Ranger, go!" Ranger exploded forward, pure fire on four legs. Elara skidded around a pillar, stumbling. She yanked out a folding knife, blade snapping open. "Stay back!" she screamed. Ranger did not care. He lunged. The knife sliced empty air. Ranger twisted mid-jump, faster than thought, then slammed into her torso. They hit the cement hard. Her knife skittered away. The device flew, bounced, slid toward a drain grate. "Don't let it fall!" Keller shouted. Caleb dove, full Superman dive, smacking his palm over the device just before it dropped. Pain shot through his hand. He didn't care. Ranger towered over Elara, growling inches from her face. "Get him off! Get him off! I surrender!" she screamed. Caleb pulled Ranger back. The dog hesitated, staring at her with a look that said, "I know what you did." Keller cuffed her to a metal pole. "You don't get to run anymore." Elara's voice cracked. "You don't understand. If they find out I failed, I'm dead. You're all dead." Keller leaned close. "And you think we're letting you walk after what you did to that puppy?" Her eyes shut, tears leaking out. Ranger growled again. Low, cold, deadly. Caleb placed a calming hand on Ranger's neck. "Easy, buddy. She's done. You stopped her. Ranger's chest heaved, breath hot and fierce. A dog who refused to lose the life he'd sworn to protect. Keller held up the device. If she'd pressed this, everything would be gone. Caleb shuddered. Yeah, I know. Ranger nudged Caleb's leg, like he was saying, we weren't going to let that happen. Caleb smiled through the adrenaline. Damn right we weren't. Keller actually smiled. He's one hell of a dog. Caleb shook his head softly. No, he's more than that. He looked down the dark deck, lights flickering like cold stars. He's hope with 4 legs. Ranger barked once, sharp, proud, victorious. And now I want to know something real. If you were standing there in that garage watching Ranger take down a knife-wielding suspect, would you be cheering, terrified, furious, or kinda all 3 at once? And honestly, after that insane chase in the parking deck, after the knife, the device, the yelling, the adrenaline still buzzing under everyone's skin, you'd think the day would finally slow down. You'd think people would get a minute to breathe. Yeah. No. Not even close. Because the second Caleb and Ranger came back up from Level C dragging Alara Voss into custody, the whole atmosphere shifted again. Not chaotic. Not terrified. Something else. A raw ripple of anticipation. Like everyone was waiting for something they couldn't name yet. And that something showed up in the form of a tiny pair of glowing star sneakers sprinting across the floor. Mom, move! Let me go! Ranger! It was Mila. She broke through the crowd again. Zero hesitation. Zero fear. Zero anything except pure, desperate emotion. She crashed into Ranger so hard, Caleb had to steady her with one hand. Her arms wrapped around Ranger's neck like she was trying to hold on to the whole world before it slipped away again. She sobbed into his fur. Big, trembling sobs that only kids make when their heart is way too heavy for their tiny bodies. I thought you got hurt. I thought something happened. I was so scared. Ranger leaned into her, not licking, not wiggling, not doing normal dog stuff. He just stayed. Still. Solid. Warm. Like a wall she could lean on. Like a promise that wouldn't break. Caleb swallowed hard. He'd seen Ranger charge into danger without blinking. But this was Ranger choosing someone. Mila pulled back, wiping tears from her cheeks. He's okay, right? You're okay? She cupped Ranger's cheeks, needing to feel he was real. Ranger nudged her hand, slow and gentle, like, yeah, kid, I'm here. Lauren caught up, breathless, eyes red from crying. Honey, I told you to wait. But Mila didn't hear her, because across the room, a tiny sound floated out. A little squeak, weak but real. Butterscotch. He was in a heated carrier, monitored by a vet tech. His ears twitched at Mila's voice, like he recognized her, even in all his weakness. Mila gasped. Oh my gosh, he's awake, he's awake! She slid to her knees beside the crate. Butterscotch? Hey, Hey, buddy, it's me. The puppy blinked, slow, uneven. His paw twitched. Then, using whatever strength he had, he pushed his head forward, just a little, just enough to say, "I hear you." Caleb's chest tightened. Look at that tough little guy. Mila reached her trembling hand inside. Butterscotch sniffed her knuckles. Soft, weak, precious. "He remembers me," she whispered. "He really does." Ranger walked over, lowered his head, and nudged the carrier gently. Butterscotch reacted instantly. A soft squeak. Then he dragged himself inch by inch toward Ranger's snout. Clumsy, slow, painful to watch. But he didn't stop. He crawled onto Ranger's paw and laid his tiny head down. The entire room went silent. Not from fear, not from shock, from awe. Mila pressed her hand to her heart. "Oh my, Ranger, he loves you." Ranger lowered himself until he was almost lying beside the crate, chin near the opening, letting Butterscotch nestle against him. His eyes softened, in a way Caleb had never seen before. It looked like he was saying, "You're safe, both of you. I'm not letting anything happen." Mila placed one hand on Ranger's shoulder, the other on Butterscotch's back. 3 hearts, time won 300 malms, one broken by loss, one scarred by cruelty, one brave enough to hold both. And somehow, they fit together perfectly. Lauren sniffled, covering her mouth, watching her daughter feel something she hadn't felt in weeks, maybe months, hope. Caleb exhaled. That's something else." Keller nodded. "Yeah, that's not just a dog. That's a bridge." Caleb frowned. "A what?" "A bridge," Keller repeated. "Between pain and healing." Caleb looked back at Ranger, Mila, and Butterscotch, pressed together in a small circle of warmth cutting through the cold airport air. "Yeah," he whispered. "Yeah, that's exactly what he is." Mila leaned her forehead against Ranger's temple. "You saved him," she whispered. "And you saved me too." Ranger let out a soft rumble, almost like a purr if dogs could purr. And for a moment, everything, every noise, every fear, every shard of heartbreak melted away. It was just them. A girl, a dog, a puppy. 3 broken souls, somehow finding each other in the middle of the worst day of their lives. And the thing is, after seeing those 3 pressed together like that, Mila holding Ranger, Ranger leaning into her, Butterscotch crawling toward them, you'd think the moment had already reached its emotional max. Like, all right, universe, that's enough. We get it. But nope. Apparently, the universe still had one more punch lined up. The soft kind. The kind that doesn't hurt. It just knocks the air out of you. Because once the vet tech carried Butterscotch into the K9 medical room, the small one tucked near the airport service wing, the whole vibe shifted. Quieter, warmer, softer. Mila followed close behind, wiping her face with her sleeve, Ranger glued to her side like a furry shadow. Caleb walked in last, slow, careful, like he didn't want to break whatever magic was forming in that tiny room. The room itself was simple. Stainless steel table, warm blankets, a heat lamp, and that mix of antiseptic and holiday-scented air freshener. But the way everyone stepped inside, it felt almost sacred. The vet tech placed Butterscotch onto a padded mat beneath the heat lamp. The little pup trembled, breaths uneven, eyes half-lidded, drifting in and out. Mila whispered, "Hi, buddy. I'm right here, okay?" Butterscotch flicked his ear, barely, but enough to answer. Then, using the tiniest bit of strength, he lifted one paw. Just a little. Just enough to reach out. His paw rested on Ranger's front leg. The entire room cracked, not breaking apart, opening. The vet tech gasped, hand over her mouth. Oh my God. He chose him. Another tech sniffed, tearing up. A TSA officer turned away, wiping his eyes. Even Caleb felt his breath hitch. Ranger didn't move a muscle. Not one. He stood still, knowing exactly how fragile this moment was, then lowered his head to touch the back of Butterscotch's paw. A gentle nudge. A silent, "I've got you, kid." Mila covered her mouth. Oh my God. He picked Ranger. He really picked him. Her tears now weren't grief. They were the softer kind. The healing kind. The kind you make when the world surprises you with something good. She reached out, fingers trembling, and brushed Butterscotch's head, the gentlest touch. The puppy sighed, a tiny, shaky exhale that sounded like relief. Mila froze, then looked up at Caleb with a spark in her eyes he hadn't seen in weeks. He knows he's safe. Caleb nodded softly. Yeah, kiddo, he does. Ranger shifted closer, wrapping his body around Mila's legs and the edge of the mat, forming a living shield around the two fragile beings who had become the center of his universe. A four-legged guardian, a silent oath in fur and muscle. The room fell into a warm silence, the kind that feels like a blanket draped over your shoulders. Even the fluorescent lights seemed softer. Lauren stepped in quietly, then stopped cold when she saw her daughter's face. Calmer, steadier, glowing with something she thought she'd lost forever. She covered her heart, tears rising. Caleb watched them. Mila, Ranger, Butterscotch, and something unfamiliar stirred in his chest. Not fear, not anger, something gentler. Pride. Relief, and something suspiciously like family. He'd never say it out loud, but the truth flickered anyway. This is what a beginning looks like. Because it wasn't just a puppy lying on Ranger's leg. Wasn't just a girl finding joy again. Wasn't just a dog guarding something fragile. It was a bond forming right there on that metal table. A tiny family stitching itself together in real time. One thread of pain, one of instinct, one of hope rediscovered. Mila leaned her cheek against Ranger's shoulder. "You're my hero." Ranger didn't bark, didn't wag, didn't move. He simply pressed his head gently against hers, sealing the moment like a quiet promise. Butterscotch shifted his tiny paw, still resting on Ranger's leg, his eyes fluttering shut. Not from weakness, but from safety. He wasn't fighting anymore. He was resting, healing, choosing his place. And for the first time since Stormy died, Mila's smile reached her eyes. Caleb felt it too, the undeniable truth glowing in the center of the room like a warm ember. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't chance. This was meant to be. And honestly, after watching that tiny paw settle on Ranger's leg, after the room melted into this warm, quiet bubble of hope, you'd think things might finally calm down. Like, okay, life, let them breathe now. But life didn't slow down. It sped up. Fast. Because while Ranger guarded Mila and Butterscotch like the world revolved around the two of them, someone outside the medical room snapped a picture. Not posed, not planned, just real. Mila sitting on the floor, cheeks streaked with dried tears, head leaning against Ranger's shoulder. Ranger curled around her like a living shield, and tiny Butterscotch, half awake, one paw still resting on Ranger's leg, like he'd found the only place in the entire universe he belonged. The photo was magic. The kind of magic you don't realize until after it's captured. And it hit the internet like lightning. First one person shared it, then 10, then thousands. By midnight, every major news outlet had headlines like, "Thanksgiving Miracle at Denver Liberty Airport." K9 saves puppy and a little girl's heart. Meet Ranger, the dog who chose hope over fear. Caleb's phone buzzed nonstop. Keller's too. Even Chief Mercer, who usually ignored her phone like it was optional, sighed and muttered, "For the love of God, who put me in a group chat?" But the internet wasn't done. That single raw moment did something no one expected. It made America stop scrolling. Veterans wrote, "Reminds me of my service dog. Thank you for showing the world that good still exists." Teachers shared crayon drawings. Ranger with capes, with wings, with superhero masks. Kids wrote, "Ranger is my hero. I want to be brave like him. Save all the puppies." A retired nurse mailed a hand-knitted blanket with Ranger's name sewn into the corner. Someone in Kansas sent a custom dog tag engraved with "Guardian of the Innocent." Families posted videos of their pets watching Ranger on the news, tilting their heads like, "Wait, is that one of us?" Other airports put up posters. "Hope always finds a way." Radio hosts cried on air. Churches included Ranger in sermons. One woman drove 6 hours just to drop off homemade dog treats. The next morning, Caleb walked into work and nearly tripped over a mountain of stuff piled outside the K9 unit. Flowers, stuffed animals, cards, toys, boxes labeled "For Ranger" with hearts drawn all over. Keller blinked. "Bro, what the hell happened overnight?" Caleb held up his buzzing phone. This happened. He's kind of famous now. Keller snorted. Kinda. My grandma texted me a screenshot of him on Good Morning America. Ranger trotted in, sniffed the mountain of gifts, and looked up like, "Are these all for me?" Lauren and Mila arrived. Mila froze, eyes huge. "Mom, is that all for Ranger?" "Looks like it, honey." Mila dropped and hugged him tight. "See, I told you you're special." Butterscotch, wrapped in a tiny blanket, wagged weakly from Mila's arms and pressed his nose to Ranger's cheek. The whole K9 unit peeked around the corner. "No way. That's insane. Dude's more popular than the Broncos." Chief Mercer stepped out with a stack of letters thick as a phone book. "Hunter," she said, "your dog has mail." Caleb blinked. "Mail? For him?" "People are calling him the Thanksgiving miracle dog." Ranger barked once, tail wagging proudly. Mila smiled, rate slow. "Well, he is." And the crazy thing, she was right. Because somewhere between the chaos and the heartbreak, something shifted. Ranger wasn't just a hero, not just a trending story, not just a dog who saved a life. He became a symbol, a reminder that bravery doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes it walks on four paws. A reminder that hope can show up in the middle of the worst day of your life. A reminder that sometimes the world needs a miracle. And one dog decides to be it. Mila curled beside Ranger, resting her head on his back. "I'm proud of you." Ranger nudged her cheek, warm, soft, steady. Caleb watched them, arms crossed, heart full in a way he couldn't explain. America hadn't just found a hero. It found a reason to believe in good again. And honestly, after watching the whole country fall in love with Ranger, after seeing gifts pile up like some wild holiday parade, you'd think the emotional bar was already maxed out. Like, "All right, universe, we're good. You did enough." But the universe apparently said, "Hold on, watch this." Because 3 days later, inside the quiet little K9 medical wing, something happened that didn't make headlines. But it broke every heart in the room in the best possible way. Mila arrived after school, sparkly star sneakers, backpack covered in stickers. Ranger spotted her instantly and trotted over, tail wagging slow and heavy like he'd been waiting for her all day. Butterscotch perked up too, his tiny tail flopping like a half-powered windshield wiper. "Hi, buddy," Mila whispered, kneeling beside him. "You're getting stronger. You're so brave." Butterscotch nuzzled her hand weakly, and Ranger sat beside her, shoulder pressed against hers, a guard tower made of fur. Lauren followed behind, hoping today might be one of the days Mila didn't cry. And then, a knock at the door, a soft one, the polite but serious kind that makes grown-ups straighten their backs. A social services officer stepped inside, clipboard in hand, expression gentle but heavy. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, kneeling down. Mila blinked. "Hi." Caleb frowned. "What's going on?" The woman exhaled softly. I'm here about butterscotch. Mila's hand froze mid-pet. Lauren grabbed her daughter's shoulder. Ranger pressed closer to Mila. Caleb stopped breathing. We finished reviewing the case, the officer said gently. And we reviewed your file, Mila. Mila's voice cracked. My file? Did I do something wrong? Oh no, honey, the woman said quickly. Nothing wrong. Actually, something really, really good. Everyone held their breath. We wanted to ask you something, Mila. She swallowed. Would you like to adopt Butterscotch? Permanently? For a full second, nobody moved. Then, Mila dropped the paper bag she was holding. Markers scattered across the floor. Her breath hitched. Once, sharp, and then she collapsed forward, hands covering her face, sobbing like her little body couldn't hold the happiness fast enough. Oh my God, really? She cried. You mean forever? He can stay with me forever? The officer nodded, eyes wet. Yes, sweetheart, forever. Lauren gasped, half sob, half laughter, wrapping her arms around her daughter. Oh, baby. Oh, my sweet girl. Yes, he's yours. Ranger stepped closer and gently rested his forehead on Mila's shoulder. Not sad, not fearful, but like he was giving her his blessing. Mila hugged him tightly, tears soaking into his fur. Thank you. Thank you for saving him. Thank you for saving me. Ranger exhaled, slow, heavy, like he understood. Caleb looked away for a moment. Because yeah, even he wasn't made of stone. We just need your mom to sign a few papers, the officer continued. But as far as we're concerned, Butterscotch belongs with you. Mila sobbed harder, nodding fast. I'll take care of him. I'll protect him. I'll be the best. The best. She choked up. Family. I'll be his family. Butterscotch whimpered softly. Not sad. Warm. Relieved. Lauren wiped her daughter's cheeks. Mila, look at you. You're glowing. Caleb chuckled. Kid looks like Christmas morning. Ranger nudged Butterscotch gently, like, You're home now, kid. 3 lives. One shaped by loss. One scarred by cruelty. One hardened by duty. Blended into something whole. A new family. Forged out of pain. Saved by love. Held together by one dog who refused to give up. And honestly, it felt like the kind of moment that rewrites everything you thought you knew about the world. If you were in that room, hearing Mila cry from pure, overflowing joy, would you tear up, smile like an idiot, or feel that warm ache right in the center of your chest? And the crazy thing is, after all the chaos, all the fear, all the heartbreak and healing and everything the universe had thrown at them, the final moment didn't happen in a hospital room or a security checkpoint or under flashing red emergency lights. It happened in the quiet, in the stillness right before the sun slips beneath the horizon. Caleb had invited Mila and Lauren to the Northfield K-9 training yard, a stretch of fenced-in grass behind old brick buildings. Nothing fancy. Worn turf, wooden platforms, the distant hum of planes. But when the sunset hit that place, yeah, it turned into something else entirely. Golden, soft, almost unreal. Mila walked in holding butterscotch, small in her arms but stronger every day. Wrapped in a plaid blanket someone from Nebraska had knitted just for him. Ranger bolted toward her the moment he saw that blanket. Tail high, ears perked, giving that deep, chesty rumble wag dogs do when they're excited, but trying to be gentle. Mila giggled. The kind of sound the universe saves for moments exactly like this. Okay, okay, I'm putting him down. Chill, Ranger. Butterscotch wriggled, half excited, half sleepy, and Mila set him on the grass. Instantly, instinctively, he waddled straight to Ranger and climbed right onto his back like he'd been born knowing how. Ranger froze, adjusting his weight carefully so the little guy wouldn't slide off. Mila laughed again, softer now, and sat beside them in the grass. She leaned her head against Ranger's chest like it was the most natural pillow in the world. And suddenly, the three of them were just there, under the orange sky, wrapped in the last warm light of the day. Caleb stopped a few feet away, taking it all in. Not like an officer, not like a handler, like a man witnessing something rare, something fragile, something almost holy in an everyday, quiet way. He let out a breath he didn't even know he was holding. Ranger lowered his chin over Mila's shoulder and closed his eyes. Butterscotch curled up between Ranger's shoulder blades, letting out a tiny huff before falling completely asleep. The three of them, the girl who lost everything, the puppy who was never supposed to survive, and the dog who refused to let the world stay cruel, looked like puzzle pieces finally clicking into place. The sunlight hit them in a way that made Caleb's chest tighten. Not painful, but full. Like something inside whispered, This is what a miracle looks like. Mila stroked Ranger's fur, fingers weaving through the thick coat. You know, she murmured, Stormy used to do this. Sit behind me during sunsets. But this feels different. Ranger nudged her cheek. Not playful, not demanding, just present. But I think, Mila whispered, this is what home feels like. Caleb felt his throat tighten. He cleared it quickly, pretending it was allergies. Lauren stepped closer, hand on her daughter's shoulder. You look happy, sweetheart. Mila nodded, eyes glowing. I am. I finally am. Butterscotch shifted on Ranger's back, letting out a tiny puppy snore. Ranger exhaled slowly, as if saying, Yeah, me too. The world seemed to pause, not frozen, just still. No alarms, no shouting, no fear, just three hearts, cracked, bruised, healing, beating in the same rhythm. Mila looked up suddenly. Can I tell you something? Sure, Caleb said. When I lost Stormy, it felt like someone took the whole world away. She looked at Butterscotch, sleeping safely. But now, It kind of feels like the world gave me another chance." Ranger leaned fully against her, agreeing without words. Caleb crouched down, voice low. "That's because you deserved one, and so did they." Mila smiled, wobbly but real. The sun kept sinking, turning the sky into pink, orange, gold. The last light outlined the three of them like a painting you'd expect to see under a museum spotlight. And the universe spoke for Caleb, in the warmth on their backs, in the quiet around them, in the breath of a dog carrying a whole country's hope, in the heartbeat of a puppy who should have never made it, in the peace of a girl learning how to live again. One dog saved a life, then saved a heart, then somehow saved something bigger. He saved belief, belief in goodness, belief in miracles, belief that the world still had light left. And all of it happened here, in the fading glow of a Denver sunset. And honestly, if you were sitting in that yard, watching those three heal each other under that golden sky, would you feel hope, peace, gratitude, or all of them crashing together at once? And the crazy thing is, after all the chaos, all the fear, all the heartbreak and healing and everything the universe had thrown at them, the final moment didn't happen in a hospital room or a security checkpoint or under flashing red emergency lights. It happened in the quiet, in the stillness right before the sun slips beneath the horizon. Caleb had invited Mila and Lauren to the Northfield K-9 training yard, a stretch of fenced-in grass behind old brick buildings. Nothing fancy. Worn turf, wooden platforms, the distant hum of planes. But when the sunset hit that place, yeah, it turned into something else entirely. Golden, soft, almost unreal. Mila walked in holding butterscotch, small in her arms but stronger every day. Wrapped in a plaid blanket someone from Nebraska had knitted just for him. Ranger bolted toward her the moment he saw that blanket. Tail high, ears perked, giving that deep, chesty rumble wag dogs do when they're excited, but trying to be gentle. Mila giggled. The kind of sound the universe saves for moments exactly like this. "Okay, okay, I'm putting him down. Chill, Ranger." Butterscotch wriggled, half excited, half sleepy, and Mila set him on the grass. Instantly, instinctively, he waddled straight to Ranger and climbed right onto his back like he'd been born knowing how. Ranger froze, adjusting his weight carefully so the little guy wouldn't slide off. Mila laughed again, softer now, and sat beside them in the grass. She leaned her head against Ranger's chest like it was the most natural pillow in the world. And suddenly, the three of them were just there, under the orange sky, wrapped in the last warm light of the day. Caleb stopped a few feet away, taking it all in. Not like an officer, not like a handler, like a man witnessing something rare, something fragile, something almost holy in an everyday, quiet way. He let out a breath he didn't even know he was holding. Ranger lowered his chin over Mila's shoulder and closed his eyes. Butterscotch curled up between Ranger's shoulder blades, letting out a tiny huff, before falling completely asleep. The three of them, the girl who lost everything, the puppy who was never supposed to survive, and the dog who refused to let the world stay cruel, looked like puzzle pieces finally clicking into place. The sunlight hit them in a way that made Caleb's chest tighten, not painful, but full. Like something inside whispered, This is what a miracle looks like. Mila stroked Ranger's fur, fingers weaving through the thick coat. You know, she murmured, Stormy used to do this. Sit behind me during sunsets. But this feels different. Ranger nudged her cheek. Not playful, not demanding, just present. But I think, Mila whispered, this is what home feels like. Caleb felt his throat tighten. He cleared it quickly, pretending it was allergies. Lauren stepped closer, hand on her daughter's shoulder. You look happy, sweetheart. Mila nodded, eyes glowing. I am. I finally am. Butterscotch shifted on Ranger's back, letting out a tiny puppy snore. Ranger exhaled slowly, as if saying, Yeah, me too. The world seemed to pause, not frozen, just still. No alarms, no shouting, no fear, just three hearts, cracked, bruised, healing, beating in the same rhythm. Mila looked up suddenly. Can I tell you something? Sure, Caleb said. When I lost Stormy, it felt like someone took the whole world away. She looked at Butterscotch, sleeping safely. But now, it kind of feels like the world gave me another chance. Ranger leaned fully against her, agreeing without words. Caleb crouched down, voice low. That's because you deserved one, and so did they. Mila smiled. Wobbly, but real. The sun kept sinking, turning the sky into pink, orange, gold. The last light outlined the three of them like a painting you'd expect to see under a museum spotlight. And the universe spoke for Caleb, in the warmth on their backs, in the quiet around them, in the breath of a dog carrying a whole country's hope, in the heartbeat of a puppy who should have never made it, in the peace of a girl learning how to live again. One dog saved a life, then saved a heart, then somehow saved something bigger. He saved belief, belief in goodness, belief in miracles, belief that the world still had light left. And all of it happened here, in the fading glow of a Denver sunset. And honestly, if you were sitting in that yard, watching those three heal each other under that golden sky, would you feel hope, peace, gratitude, or all of them crashing together at once?